So last Thursday morning, I said, right in this seat, that Simone asked the Prime Minister the night before at the Grand Gala if he could tell us when the election would be. And he says, what I can tell you, it will be on time.
Did.
Well, I don't know if September 3 is on time, but Prime Minister Dr. Holness has officially announced the date for Jamaica's upcoming general election, and in weeks of speculation. So what happens now? From campaign rules and political strategies to what voters should expect in the weeks ahead. Political commentator Mr. Kevin O'Brien Chang is on Zoom to break it all down as the countdown officially begins. Morning, sir. Welcome to Smile. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
It is our pleasure. As far as election goes in Jamaica, is there any, what's the word I want? Is this one going to be any different from the rest? That's not the word I wanted to use, but is this just like a regular normal election that we've seen over the years, or this might be a little different?
I think it should be normal, and normal is a very good thing in democracy, you know. A lot of places, elections are not normal. Usually election, they have violence and interruptions and this and that. Having a stable democracy like Jamaica is a great accomplishment. You know, there are not 20 countries in the world with our democratic record. No revolution, no coups, no assassinations, regular elections every few years. You know, nobody afraid of being shot and all that stuff. Our politicians. We have a prime minister can go down in halfway train, give out booklets without bodyguards. So normalcy is good. And if anything different I expect this election is the growing camaraderie between the JLP and PNP supporters. Once upon a time, back in the bad old days, 70s and 1980, they were shooting at each other. And we see videos of them dancing together. If you look at the drive around, you see a lot of bridges and stuff. People say you have the green and orange together, all that kind of stuff. I don't think Jamaican democracy has ever been healthier. And that's a wonderful thing for a country like us. We're not rich, we're small, and by world standards, we're young, 63 years. But we have one of the most mature democracies on the planet and one of the most vibrant. Very few places in the world you're going to see a rally like last night, where hundreds, I don't know how big it is, but people are going to say like 50,000, 100,000 people cheering, dancing, music. It's wonderful. How many places have that? And we have our politics is very fortunate. No class divisions, no race divisions, no religious divisions. If you change all those shirts last night to orange, it would be the same demographic for the PNP as the JLP. So all these are blessings. We've had 16 elections since independence. 8, the incumbent has won, and 8, they have been voted. You couldn't have a better record than that. Nobody has an advantage.
I saw a lot of pundits and commentators with conjecture about when this rally would have been held, when the elections would have been called. I think it's safe to say the PM has pretty much run the clock right down, no? Because the elections are constitutionally due next month. Advantage or disadvantage? Were you surprised at the calling of the date, or is it pretty much how you thought it would play out based on your own experience doing what it is that you do?
Well, I don't know about that experience, but it's obvious. The JLP was far ahead in the polls. He'd have called it earlier. So I think it's a pretty close election. In fact, the last 2 polls that were done, we have 2 pollsters now active, Blue Dot and Don Anderson. Don Anderson had PNP ahead by 3%, and Blue Dot had JLP ahead by 4%. Pretty much a dead heat. I think it's very close based on what's going on. The 2 main factors at work, I believe. One, this government has the best record of any government I've ever lived under. Record low unemployment, record low poverty rate, lowest murder rate in 30 years. You can't have a much better record than that. But it's a third-term election. We've had 6 third-term elections since 1944, universal suffrage. And 5 of them, the incumbent has lost. The only successful third-term prime minister has been P.J. Patterson in 2002, and his vote still dropped a lot from the 97 election. And many felt he only won because Edward Seaga was not very popular at the time. So these are the 2 main factors. A government with an excellent record, the best I have ever lived under in terms of accomplishments. But a third. Jamaicans don't like giving third terms. I can't say exactly why. Maybe it's because if I give a third term here, I might lose my democracy. You know, this party might become entrenched. I don't know. I'm speculating there.
Let me ask you about your thoughts. You mentioned the polls. The polls also have the undecideds very high. Sir Chang, what do you make of that? Because that could be the swinging vote in the election. Will be, no?
But always, undecided is always high. But my interpretation of Jamaican politics is that you have three groups of voters. Probably about 35% hardcore JLP, 35% hardcore PNP, and 30% swing voters. Think about it. If we didn't have swing voters deciding the election, how could we have 8 elections where the incumbent has won and 8 where they have lost? Mm-hmm. And we've had pretty much balanced terms of JLP and PNP. In fact, if you look at since 62, it's 32 years JLP and 31 years PNP, or the other way around. It's very balanced between the two parties. And for whatever reason, historically, we have seen Jamaicans don't want third parties. They're happy with PNP and JLP. Others have tried, none have succeeded. So it's what the people want. And 2 myths I want to address. One of them is that the declining voter turnout. It's a myth. Since 1962 or even 44, roughly 31% of the Jamaican population has voted. Recently, what we've seen is more people getting registered. So the percentage of registered voters voting has declined. But why are people registering? Is it to vote? No. Most people want the voter ID because we don't have one available. So they register to vote. They're not interested in voting, but they have the voter ID. For whatever reason, it's only 31% of Jamaicans on average over history who vote in our elections. And people say it may not be a bad thing. The highest percentage was 40% in 1980, the bloodiest election ever. Sometimes a little indifference is not bad in politics, because when emotions get too high, when you have great divisions, class, color, religion, people get really heated and angry, and you have violence. This last local government election was unquestionably the most peaceful elections we have had since at least 1980. We saw them dancing together. We hear a lady said, a JLP lady said, "Oh, me come late, me on a lunch, but my PNP friend then buy lunch for me." Those kind of things are wonderful. The other myth is that young people don't vote. It's a myth. The highest sector of voters last election, we had, if you look at 18 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 49, 50 to 59, and 60 plus. Of those 5 categories, the largest chunk was 18 to 29, 22%. And another factor, the last 2 elections, I got this from EOJ balanced to the average of 2016 and 2020. 53% of voters were women, only 47% were men. So young women are the most important voting demographic in Jamaica.
Yeah.
The last 2 elections, they were the ones who had the biggest impact.
Yeah. Every time we speak, you always tell me that, you kind of go with the polls. You've already said that the polls have said they're close. But having said that, what have you seen from the polls that would suggest either party?
As I said, if you balance the 2 polls out, it's almost a dead heat. And I've told you the factors that I think are critical. You have a performing government and an electorate that is reluctant to give third terms, perhaps because we say if we give them another third term, they might go a 4th term. For example, I have called on journalists to ask Andrew Holness a question. If you win a 3rd term, Mr. Holness, will you go for a 4th term, or will you say my 3rd term is my last term? I think it's a critical question to ask him, because a lot of people are wondering that. And it's a question other countries will ask a prime minister going for a 3rd term. Will you run again? We've had talks about term limits. He himself promised term limits in 2016. But term limits come and go. We've had many countries try them, and they don't work.
He also promised a fixed election date, and we haven't seen that either.
Well, that one doesn't work. Circumstances have changed. At that time, Britain had a fixed election date legislation. UK, the mother of parliaments, mother of democracy, it didn't work. They had to cancel it. Canada has tried it. They had to cancel it. Fixed election dates don't work in Westminster.
Interesting.
And even the term limits. We've had many prime ministers or presidents around the world. Oh, term limits, no more than 2 terms. They change the law when they're in power. But still, I want to hear Andrew Holness's mindset. Mr. Holness, would you run again if you want a 3rd term for a 4th term? Or are you going to say 3 terms is my limit? Whatever the answer is, it's a question I think some journalists should be asking.
Okay.
Because democracy is priceless, Democracy is a scarce thing. I tell you, I've done studies around the world of countries 1 million or more who have had no assassinations, no coups, no revolution since 1962. There are only 17. Jamaica is one of those 17, and we're the only non-white country.
Interesting.
Only 3rd world country other than Costa Rica, with the mostly white country. So we are an example to the world. Our democracy is precious, and I think that's one of the questions why the JLP isn't going to win in a landslide, because the record is incredible. If in 2016 someone has told me we're going to have lowest unemployment ever, 3.3%, lowest in the English-speaking world, lower than Canada, America, England. Unheard of in Jamaica, but here we are. Lowest poverty ever. That's amazing. Murders are down 30 for the lowest murder rate in 30 years. Jamaica has never felt so safe for 30 years. People are saying we can walk, drive around. Great record. But Jamaicans don't like giving 3rd terms. So it's like the immovable force against the irresistible force against immovable object kind of election.
Yeah, one more question before we go, Sir Chan, because we have to leave. Based on what you saw last night, the PNP did cancel or postpone their rally. What would you need to see, or what would Jamaicans need to see them do now in response to? I mean, everything would have been planned already, but based on what you saw last night, what would we need to see from them for folks to be impressed, convinced?
For the PNP?
Yes.
We're going to have a big rally level, of course. Both parties get up big crowds. But there's a famous saying in 1980, Michael Mann was in Shamshop Square. Massive crowd, 150,000 strong, can't be wrong. Well, they were wrong. So crowds, I don't think mean a lot. The biggest convention I've seen since the last 30 years, it was 2011 when Andrew Holness first came to power. Massive crowd. He lost. Crowds don't mean anything. I'm pretty sure PNP will get a big crowd. We have 2 baked-in hardcore supporters, like 2 football teams, Manchester City and Manchester United. Mm-hmm. So that element of the football team excitement, I want to see my team win, forget the election aspect, is very much alive and well. So PNP will get a big crowd, and we have a healthy democracy, and may the best leader and the best party win. Yep. And let the result, no matter how close, be accepted by both sides.
Yes.
Yep. Thanks for speaking with us. Always good to see you. God bless.
Thanks for having me, man. Take care.
Political commentator Kevin O'Brien Chang. After the break, we are speaking with Mr. and Miss Health and Wellness 2025.